Okay, good morning. It's much earlier this morning, and I'm not entirely sure how to start this video, other than to say there is going to be a big fat warning on today. So if you are squeamish or you are sensitive to medical details or depression details, this is not going to be the video you want to watch. There's going to be some things in here that are going to be quite dark. There's going to be some things in here that are going to be uh, graphic, and it's not going to be the video for you. So please click off now. I don't want to offend anybody. This is for informational purposes only. Maybe it'll help somebody somehow down the road, or maybe it'll help you now if you're going through some things. So this will I'm going to detail some of my mental challenges after uh, some of my medical stuff. Okay, in 2012, December 2012, I had some dealings with a homeless fella who passed along some germs to me that got into an open pore on my skin, and in that open pore festered a superbug. Now, at first, I paid it no mind. I thought maybe I just had a flu, and I went back to work like I always did. Don't take time off. You just shake it off and keep going. Not to not to pat myself on the back. That had nothing to do with it. And anyway, did that over the weekend. Come Monday morning, I went over to my boss and I said, "Hey, I don't know what to tell you, but I need to go home. I need to go see a doctor. I am really sick." And she looked at me and said, "Yeah, you look like crap. Go ahead." So I went home. I grabbed my wife and I said, "Hey, can you drive me over to the doctor?" She said, "Yeah." So we went over to the doctor, and they're full. The waiting room is full of people. There was some sort of stomach bug going around, and that gave me some confidence that okay, I'm not the only one. And there was a washroom. It was a very small waiting room. There was a washroom attached to it. Thankfully, it was empty because, man, I had to make a mad dash in there, and I acquainted myself with the golden porcelain. And once I opened the door, everybody was staring at me. And apparently, I wasn't very quiet in my emptying of my stomach. Went into the doctor's office. They called me in right away. Went in there and explained what was going on. Doctor said, "Okay, well, if it doesn't get better in a couple of days, come back and see me." At the time, the symptoms were flu-like symptoms. There wasn't really anything going on other than that. Okay, yeah, no problem. So we went home, and a day later, things had changed drastically. Um, in my groin area, my scrotum had turned angry red and black and was swollen to the size of a Nerf football. Gentlemen, you can attest to the fact that that is not normal. That hurt. It it was bad. I had not slept in a day and a half at this point. The smell was, I, I was rotting. So load back up in the car, go back to the doctor. Doctor says, okay, well, what's the matter? So I told him. He says, okay, let me see. I, I pulled down my drawers, and doctor takes one look and goes, oh, okay. Yeah, that's not good. Here's some anti-nausea pills. Go home, and if it gets worse, come back and see me. Okay, well, you don't want to do any tests or anything? No, no, the anti-nausea should work. Go on home. Okay. Now, keep in mind, I hadn't slept at this point in probably 3 days, and I hadn't kept even water down, let alone any food. He knew that. I told him. So we went home. I took the anti-nausea, which I immediately threw back up. Went one more night. I slept on the couch. Well, I laid on the couch. I didn't sleep. Come morning, at this point, all I was bringing back up were these little black spots. I'm not sure where they came from. Maybe something I ate as a child. My wife said, "That's it. We're calling an ambulance." Called the ambulance. Driver showed up. Being Canadian, I met him out at the street side. It's the polite thing to do. They load me up, and you could just see the grimace on the guy's face. I was fully dressed, but the smell coming off of me was something else. It was otherworldly, and I apologized to the man. They took me down to the hospital and wheeled me into the emergency room and put me in my own special little thing. And there was about 9,000 people in there, and they cut my clothes off, and every one of them made a special face because, well, my scrotum was a different color altogether. There wasn't much left other than the black, and it was pretty rotten. There wasn't much to be done at that point other than to wheel me to the operating room. So off I went. None of this I really remember. I remember being wheeled into the emergency room, and that is the last thing I remember. At this point, I was told that they took my wife, my mother, and my daughter over to one of those rooms that, you see on TV where they take the family. The surgeon, who happened to have just come back from a conference on infectious disease, they took my family over there and said, hey, don't get your hopes up. He probably isn't going to make it. And they did that for 3 days straight. Don't get your hopes up. He ain't going to make it. You should probably plan for the worst. Not cool. Of course, I knew none of this. I was out like a light. And they did that for 3 days straight. They took me to the operating room 3 times per day, and they, you know, debribed skin. The incision went from the back of my leg up through the groin all the way up to the middle of my chest. Anyway, as I said, it was in December. I think it was around December 10th. I woke up I woke up around just before, I think it was around December 14th, December 15th, right around my birthday. Anyway, my family brought in a birthday cake, and the nurses lost their mind. You can't have that. You can't feed him birthday cake. And my family, no, we're not going to feed it to him. We're just going to sing happy birthday and take it away. I found that pretty comical after they told me the story because I don't remember the cake. I think I was still a little loopy, but my family and their comedy of errors. So, anyway, I was still a smoker at the time. the moment I woke up, you know, it's like if you're a smoker, the moment you wake up, you want to have a cigarette. Well, you can't smoke in the hospitals anymore. I miss those times. But I had a cigarette and I didn't care how that was going to happen. Now, keep in mind, the incisions were still open. They didn't close the incisions. They needed to keep going back in there. It didn't matter whether I was awake now or not. The incisions were still open. Well, as I said, the incisions went from the back of my leg up through the groin all the way to the middle of my chest. All they did was pack them full of wet gauze and stick me in on my hospital bed and wheel me back to my room. So there I was. They moved me to a chair, wheeled me outside with all my little IV poles and oxygen crap and whatnot. And I went outside. Now, this was the middle of December in Canada, in Calgary. And at one point, it was so cold that the IV froze the second we went outside. The alarms were going, and yeah, I got no IV fluids the time I was out there because, well, it was froze solid. My wife wasn't the best driver either. She had damn near dipped me out onto the snow. That would have been cute. I would have froze solid incisions. But here I was talking to the doctor once I had my wits about me, and the doctor says, "Well, you're going to be in the hospital for about 3 months, and it's going to be about 3 years before you can go back to work." No, no, that's just not going to work for me. Sorry. Unfortunately, you don't pay my bills. No amount of you telling me that I can't work for 3 years is going to happen. And no amount of 3 months in this hospital is going to work because your guys' beds suck. I don't know if many of you have been to the hospital lately, but they use these air mattresses that blow up certain sections so you don't end up with bed sores. They are god awful. I mean, you can feel the steel frame underneath. They are a medieval torture all of their own. What I wouldn't give to have the beds from the 70s and 80s that I had when I was a kid, when I had my appendix out. Oh yeah, those were comfortable. You can get a good night's sleep on one of them. These things are, no wonder we put old people in there to die. They die quicker just because they're laying on these stupid things. And after 3 weeks, I would have done handstands to get out of this place. So, um, 3 weeks. That was it. 3 weeks. We're done. They let me out on New Year's Eve. I was good to go. They let me go home. I still had the world's worst torture device in. They sent me home with a catheter. Now, anytime I'd had surgery before that, I had always told the doctor the same thing. If I wake up from surgery with a catheter in, you best not be in the hospital because I'll hunt you down. I didn't have much choice on this one. I was a little loopy when they brought me in. So they sent me home with this damn thing. And it immediately became apparent upon going home that the catheter was going to be a problem. And it was. And it was a holiday when they sent me home. And I went through the most excruciating pain I could possibly imagine. And I had to phone the doctor who screwed up all that time on the initial diagnosis to get the thing pulled, which I didn't want to have anything to do with this man anymore, but he had to give the okay to get it pulled. How frustrating. But anyway, we went there, got the thing pulled. Okay, now I can pee like a big boy again. We're doing great. Home care has to come in several times a week. My wife is a licensed um, nursing attendant. She could change the dressings. They finally figured that part out. Now I don't have to have strangers in my house anymore. My wife can just do the dressing changes. So now I have the nurses just dropping supplies off. Now I don't have to have strangers in the house. The dogs aren't going crazy all the time. Everything's better. 3 months going back to work. Probably went back way early. Didn't matter. I felt better. I was making my own money again. Here comes the problem. There is no mental health care available for men. If a woman goes in and has a mastectomy, has her breast removed due to cancer, there is an abundance of health care for that. The system doesn't know what to do for men. If you get Fournier's gangrene, which is the proper term for what I have, they don't know what to do for you. They tried sending me to a psychologist. I sat down and I talked to the young guy, and he says, well, I think what you need to do is to envision yourself as a 12-year-old girl getting glasses for the first time. And I looked at him and I said, son, you want me to envision myself as a 12? How long have you been a psychologist, son? You know what? Here, just shake my hand. There we go. Bye bye. I'm sure you're going to do great. You're just not going to do great with me. And that was the last time I talked to any of them because that's batshit crazy. They don't know what to do in the situation of a man. They might know what to do in a situation with a young man, but not a grown man. And it became desperately apparent. So I understood that there was going to, my phone beeping at me. It became apparent that there was going to be some really, really dark, really rocky times. And thankfully, I had a fairly understanding wife to back me up. She was there in the hospital day in, day out. She never left my room for the first 2.5 weeks that I was in the hospital. She lived in that room in infectious care until they moved me down to general care and there wasn't a couch for her to sleep on. Like when I was upstairs in the infectious disease control room, she lived in there. And then when they moved me downstairs into the general part of the hospital, there wasn't a couch for her to sleep on, and yeah, she had to go. Then she went home, and she wasn't happy about it. So that's I I don't even know what to say about that. So Fournier's gangrene does not. The fact that it attacked me is a miracle because it is something that targets uh, black men primarily. It does not go after white men primarily. It's white men is the smallest majority. Why it went after me that day, don't know, but I guess I should feel special. The fact that it went after me that day and I pulled into a hospital that just so happened to have a infectious disease control specialist who was wandering through the halls of that hospital when I pulled in is nothing short of a miracle. And he said, had I waited but just a few hours more or the next morning, there's no way that they could have pulled that one back. The fact that I did not lose a limb, because nobody ever doesn't lose a limb to this. The fact that it attacked dead center of my body, and I didn't lose a massive amount of tissue dead center is is virtually unheard of. I don't know. Maybe I should attribute it to the fact that I went into it as a fat man. Like, I don't even know what to say about it. I think about it all the time. All the time. I've lost several friends in the last little while to suicide. And here I have this thing try to take me out that should have taken me out and didn't. How does that work? Anyway, there's more to talk about this. We'll talk about the recovery portion, uh, all the things that went wrong there in the plastic surgery portion. Um, there's pictures that go with that, the recovery, things that I would have missed, that things I would have missed had I not made it, and we'll go over those. We'll go over those when the time comes. Anyway, I enjoyed sharing this. It is a bit of a cathartic experience. I hope you have a fantastic day. Don't forget we love you, and we'll talk to you later.